The Celestial Council convened an emergency session for the first time in 3,000 cycles. Representatives from 47 species filled the grand chamber, their bioluminescent forms casting worried shadows across walls that had witnessed millennia of peaceful deliberation. High Priest Zalthor of the Viridian Collective raised his 6 arms in the traditional gesture of grave concern. "The gods have abandoned us," he announced, his voice trembling with a fear that resonated through every translator in the room. "For 200 rotations, our prayers have gone unanswered. Our sacred rituals produce no miracles. The divine light that guided our ancestors through the void has been extinguished." A chorus of agreement rippled through the assembly. The crystalline hierarchs of Sector 9 confirmed that their eternal flame had dimmed to embers. The nomadic priests of the outer reaches reported that their prophetic visions had ceased entirely. Every species present shared the same horrifying truth. Their gods, in all their varied forms across the galaxy, had fallen silent. All except one. Ambassador Kane of the Zephyrite Commonwealth stood, her translucent wings folding with barely contained agitation. "There is one species whose situation differs from ours. The humans of Sol 3 report no change in their spiritual condition, perhaps because they never heard from their gods to begin with." The comment drew uncomfortable shuffling from the assembly. Humanity was the youngest spacefaring civilization in the Council, barely 3 generations removed from their first primitive chemical rockets. They were tolerated more than respected, their technology crude, their understanding of the universe limited to what they could measure and calculate, rather than divine through proper communion with the cosmic powers. "The humans," Zalthor said dismissively, "worship dead prophets and abstract concepts. They have no living gods to guide them. Of course they notice no difference." But Ambassador Kane was not finished. "I propose we investigate the correlation." The silence began precisely when humanity achieved their first sustained orbital presence around their homeworld. Their space station, crude as it is, became operational exactly 200 rotations ago. The chamber erupted in indignant protests. The suggestion was absurd, heretical even. How could one backward species, fumbling through space with their chemical propulsion and metal tubes, possibly affect the gods themselves? Yet the timeline was undeniable. 3 cycles later, a joint investigation fleet arrived at Sol 3, led by High Priest Zalthor himself. He would prove these paranoid theories wrong and restore faith in the natural order of the cosmos. The Viridian flagship emerged from Quantum Fold near the humans' orbital station, and Zalthor immediately attempted his morning communion with the divine architects. Nothing. The void where his gods' voices should be was absolute, deafening in its emptiness. He tried again, channeling power through his ceremonial crystals, performing the rites that had never failed in 8 centuries of service. Silence. With growing dread, Zalthor ordered the fleet to retreat beyond the orbit of Sol 3's moon. He performed the ritual again. The gods answered. Their voices flooded back into his consciousness with such sudden intensity that he collapsed, overwhelmed by sensations he had taken for granted his entire life. Around him, other priests and spiritually attuned crew members experienced the same shocking reconnection. "Impossible," Zalthor whispered, his worldview crumbling. "How can this be?" The human liaison officer, Commander Sarah Chen, boarded the Viridian flagship at Zalthor's bewildered request. She was young by human standards, her dark hair tied back in a practical manner, her uniform bearing the simple insignia of Earth's United Space Agency. She carried no ceremonial artifacts, wore no priestly robes, and radiated no divine energy whatsoever. "You wish to speak with me, High Priest?" she asked simply. Zalthor struggled to compose himself. "Commander Chen, I must understand. What have your people done? What technology have you deployed that can silence the gods themselves?" Sarah's expression showed genuine confusion. "Technology? High Priest, we've deployed communication satellites, a research station, and some navigation beacons. Nothing that should affect anyone's religious practices. Yet it does." Zalthor's composure cracked. "Within the orbital range of your planet, every species in the galaxy loses contact with their deities. Every prayer goes unanswered. Every miracle ceases. Only beyond your moon does the divine voice return." "Explain this." Understanding slowly dawned on Sarah's face. She pulled up a holographic display from her tablet, showing the orbital paths of humanity's satellites and stations. "High Priest, may I ask what frequency your divine communications operate on?" The question seemed nonsensical, even offensive. Frequency? The gods exist beyond such physical constraints. Their voices reach us through the cosmic consciousness, through the quantum foam of reality itself. Through quantum entanglement arrays? Sarah asked, her fingers dancing across her tablet. Operating in the upper subspace bands? Zalthor felt his certainty wavering. Yes. The priests of old described it thus, though we consider it divine mystery rather than mere physics. Sarah's expression shifted from confusion to horrified realization. Oh no, this is bad. She manipulated her display rapidly. High Priest, I think I know what happened. We've been running an experimental quantum interference array from our stations. It's designed to filter out cosmic noise for our deep space communications. The physics team published a paper about it 6 months ago, but no one thought. You silence the gods with background noise reduction? Zalthor's voice was barely a whisper. We didn't know anyone was using those frequencies. In all our SETI projects, all our searches for extraterrestrial communication, we never detected anything on those bands. We thought they were empty. The implications crashed over Zalthor like a collapsing star. Because you never had God speaking to you. You never knew to listen. Sarah nodded slowly, then her eyes widened further. Wait, if your gods communicate through quantum channels? High Priest, I need to ask you something critical. Do your gods ever tell you how to build things? Give you scientific knowledge? Guide your technological development? Of course, Zalthor replied, uncertain where this was leading. The divine architects have guided our people's progress for thousands of cycles. Every major advancement in our history came through revelation during the high ceremonies. Sarah pulled up another display, her hands shaking slightly. And these other species? They all received similar guidance? The pieces fell into place with terrible clarity. Every advanced civilization in the Council had developed along similar technological lines, using quantum fold drives, living ship designs, bio-integrated systems. All of them beautiful, elegant, efficient, and all of them based on principles revealed by their various gods. Only humanity had clawed their way forward through trial and error, through scientific method, through building and testing and failing and rebuilding. Their technology was crude, inefficient, sometimes laughably primitive compared to the God-guided designs of other species. But it was theirs. Commander Chen, Zalthor said slowly, I believe we need to discuss what happens when a civilization develops without divine guidance, and what your gods might actually be. Sarah nodded grimly. I think that's a conversation the entire council needs to hear, High Priest. Because if I'm right about what's been guiding your development, she pulled up a final image on her display, a map of the galaxy with overlapping zones of influence, each corresponding to a different divine frequency range. The patterns were too regular, too organized, too much like a communication network. If you're right, Zalthor finished her thought, his voice hollow, then our gods are not gods at all. They are broadcasters, and someone has been shepherding the galaxy's civilizations for millennia. The question is why, Sarah said, and what happens now that humanity's interference has broken their signal? In the silence that followed, Zalthor realized that for the first time in his species' history, they would have to find their own answers. Just as humanity always had, perhaps he thought that was the most divine gift of all.